Welcome to the live stream. Take this time to connect with our amazing community, ask questions, share your stories, join in on the conversation. We're here to support each other on this journey. Use super chats to highlight important questions or comments. We're so glad you're here and can't wait to hear from you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Keto Crusade. My name is Dustin. I am joined by my awesome friends Chris and Victor from Chris Cooking Nashville and Southern Keto. How are you doing tonight, gentlemen?
Man, I'm great. I feel like I was in an Avengers movie. I love that, man.
That's right. That's right. That was awesome. I'm doing great. If I was doing any better, I'd have to stop and put a rock in my shoe, as they say.
I've never heard that before. But this is the second outing of the Keto Crusade. Last week, we kind of set up what we're going to be doing here. We're going to be talking about community, how we are all here, how we are all connected, how we are all welcoming. We want to make sure that not just carnivore, keto, ketovore, doesn't matter whether you're vegan, paleo, who you are, what your journey is, as long as you're in a place trying to better yourself or you're curious about bettering yourself, we're here for you. No judgment. We're here to support you and help you on that journey. These guys are some of the best guys that I know to be in a place to help, whether from their own experiences or just their knowledge. And this week, we're going to be talking about two main points. We're going to be talking about our male audience and how it's basically underserved. And what I mean by that is most or more than 50% of our audiences are female. And I know that there's going to be a lot of men out there that are struggling, going through things like I went through, what Chris has gone through, what Victor's gone through. And we want to make sure that we are a beacon for them, a lighthouse for them to find, to share their stories, their struggles, find people that have similar life experiences, perspectives that can let them know that they're not alone in this, because that's how I thought I was. When I first started this, going down this journey, all the things that I was experiencing, being over 400 pounds, not being able to use bathrooms in public or doing whatever it was, I thought I was alone. I didn't think there was anybody else out there who was dealing with what I was dealing with. And I want to make sure that I'm here. I know Chris is feeling the same way. And we also want to do that without alienating our female audience. That is not what we want to do here. We're not a male-centric live stream. And we also want to, in this particular live stream, start to touch on preparing ourselves and getting ready for our successes in 2025. So, again, we've got Chris from Chris Cooking Nashville here, Victor from Southern Keto here. Is there anything that either of you want to say to get things kicked off?
I will just jump in and say, one, thank you, first of all, Dustin, for all of your hard work to put together the fantastic, the background we've got, the intro, all this kind of stuff. This is really a team effort, and I love the fact we're getting to do this, and these guys are a huge support system for me and for the three of us to be able to just kind of chat and talk YouTube and talk low carb and talk recipes and talk audiences and like be able to do this all together. This is really cool, and we are really hoping that we can reach as many people as possible by doing this. And this whole Keto Crusade thing was an idea that I approached these two about and said we should do something like this, and we kind of all have developed this together. And I think to your point, Dustin, I think there are a lot of people out there, be they male or female, that can benefit from these kinds of things, because I do think there's a lot of underrepresented guys. I was one of them. that I felt like I didn't have a place to go to be able to talk about this kind of stuff. And I think, of course, there's women that feel the same way. And having a place like this where all of you guys can come and you can ask us questions, you can tell us what you're going through, talk with us about your stories, find a community, all of these different things. That's what this is for. That's why we are here. That's why we love doing this so much. And I just really quickly wanted to share with you guys. I told Dustin and Victor I just wanted to share with you. I got an email today, and I think maybe this can kind of kick off this conversation for us tonight. But I got this email from one of my subscribers, and I'm not going to say their name or give you any of their personal details because it's their story to tell. But I just wanted to read a little bit of what they sent to me because this is the kind of stuff that Dustin and Victor and I are trying to do with people, trying to have this impact on their lives. And I know all three of us get messages like this. And when we do, this is what keeps us going, and this is what makes it so worthwhile to do what we do. So this is from a subscriber of mine. Says, just wanted to thank you again. Commented on your latest live stream and made 2 different crackers for my newly keto and struggling wife. Her biggest struggle is snacking on crunchy, salty things for hours while reading. She actually stopped reading most of the time because crackers and potato chips are permanently linked with her love of reading in her brain. She said of your Munster version of crackers, wow, I would eat these even if I wasn't doing keto. This erases my biggest reason to cheat. Chris, let me just say, you are the man. You're doing very important work. What good is all the docs like Dr. Barry and Dr. Chafee, whom I love and credit for adding 40 more years to my lifespan, if someone can't get over missing their favorites? I'm personally strict carnivore because of my addictive personality. I yo-yoed on keto for 6.5 years intermittently, binging on sugar, until I finally went strict carnivore, including cutting out artificial sweeteners. After 55 years, I'm finally free of sugar addiction and obsession. All mental noise is gone. My wife is different than me and can easily moderate. She does not care much about sweets and can have one tiny square of dark chocolate when she gets a craving. It's your amazing recipes, like pizza crust and crackers, that is literally allowing her to live a long life with me. And it did my heart so much good to get that message. And it said a couple of really important things to me, which I think is kind of the crux of why the three of us are doing this and why we're all here. Number one is that there is just such a need for people out there for support, be it through recipes, people to talk to, a place to go, whatever, because food and culture and food and health all intertwined in all of that. That is being a human being. Whether that's right or wrong is irrelevant. That is just the reality of the world we live in, and that's why we're trying to help people. Because I know I struggled with this. I'm sure these two guys had things they've struggled with along the way where it has some version of something wrapped up that for them was difficult, or that they had to come up with tools for. And so we're all trying to overcome that. So number one, there's so many people that just need additional support and ideas, because one size does not fit all when it comes to the approach of how you make this stable in your life. And then the other thing, which was complete subtext in this email, but as a guy, I can tell you, it's hard sometimes as a guy to be able to express things like my wife being healthy and being around as long as possible, for me to be married to her as long as possible is we don't talk a lot about that kind of stuff as guys. We experience these sorts of things. Apparently I have fireworks going on. We experience these kinds of things. We go through all of this, but I think that I know for me personally, I've always felt like society is set up in a way where as a guy, you're not supposed to talk about these things. You're not supposed to feel things. You're not supposed to struggle. If you do feel things, if you do struggle, you're not ever supposed to show it, which, we can all be tough and manly and, big, powerful guys. Okay, great. But when you're struggling and you're 400 pounds and depressed and struggling with anxiety and you can't get off the couch, and the woman that you love isn't sure if she wants to marry you or not because she doesn't know if you're going to live to be 35, that's a real rough place to be, and you got to have someone to talk to, and you got to have a way to get out of that. And that's where I found myself. And this person's email, this guy that sent me this email, it reminded me so much of what it was like for me to just have this, I want to be with this woman, I want to have this healthy life, I have all these dreams and aspirations, and there's something that was making it a struggle for me to get there. And so I think that email came in today, and I thought it was really serendipitous timing that it would come in right before we were about to have this conversation tonight, where we're talking about all of these things, because it just highlights for me very much a lot of those things that I was feeling and that I went through when I was first starting out on keto, and it's kind of the underlying crux of why I said, I think this is a cool idea. Who do I know that would do this with me? And Victor and Dustin were the two names that popped up immediately. So that's why we're all here. That's what I have to say, and I'll shut up and let you guys jump in.
Well, yeah, Chris, that's what, we all started talking, the three of us together, and one of the things, I know Dustin's got a, pretty good like meetup community up there and stuff. But like for me, most of my buddies and stuff are not keto. If we're strictly talking about keto, I mean, a lot of people don't even understand it, don't know why we do it. You try to talk to them about it, but, it's hard when you have problems like that and you really don't have anybody to go to understand it. And so, three of us have kind of come together, and, I feel like I can talk to these guys freely, but a lot of people don't have that. It's been beaten into us since we were kids, whether it's playing sports or whatever the case is, like, you don't talk about it. You shake it off, you walk it off, whatever it is, you can say something, nope, just, get back on the field, whatever. And, it's just conditioning. And, it really takes a long time to kind of break out of that. And, for the longest time when I was at work, I would work all day. I'd take everything, kind of hold everything in. I wouldn't want to talk about it. When I got home, I didn't want to talk about anything. Let's just move away from that. That was after my personal training days. I was in the sales business, so it's 12, 14 hours a day, and just getting beat on all day long. And when you get home, you just want to forget about it. So it really is important, and whether it's, men or women. I mean, there's women that don't have anybody to talk to. There's men that don't have anybody to talk to. And, it's definitely an issue. It took me a long time to be able to kind of open up about a lot of stuff, after the way we're brought up and the conditioning we had. So, I'm just thankful for you two guys that I can come to y'all with stuff. And if anybody ever needs to talk to me, my email is on all my videos. I'm on Facebook. Anybody at any time can message me, and I'll respond back. So, I think that's important, for me. If anybody thinks I can help them, then I'm here for you.
I think when it comes to the embarrassment factor of a lot of things that a lot of the guys in our situation come across, I mean, there's the embarrassment factor, like, where do I shop for clothes? Why I got to be careful when I go out to dinner with friends, because I have to make sure that I can sit. Will the chairs hold me? Will the booth fit me? Will the bathrooms be accommodating enough for me to get in there, utilize them, and be able to handle my business effectively, and not be in a mess? And I know that there's a taboo with all of these things, especially the bathroom aspect. It wasn't something that I ever dreamed of until it was a part of my life. But even then, how do you broach that topic with random people? You're just sitting at dinner with your buddy and go, you know what? I can't poop in my downstairs bathroom anymore. It doesn't work. Like, you just can't, you would never dream about talking. And I think that putting those inhibitions aside and opening up and being vulnerable and coming out and talking with not just you two gentlemen, but everybody in the chat, because there's going to be a lot of people in the chat who have no idea what I'm talking about. They may not have gotten to a point where that was something that they were dealing with, but there may be somebody who's not in the chat who just may be listening 2 weeks from now, a month from now, or maybe just listening, but have never dreamed about even saying hi, but they're going through the same thing. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands that as long as I'm a part of this process and a part of this live and a part of this community, I will make sure everybody has the ability to say what they need to say and not get ridiculed for it or, you know, there'll be no repercussions necessarily if you are open and honest and vulnerable, because this is a scary place to do it. I mean, you know, there's a lot of people watching, but I think that my vulnerability is not as important as the people out there who are suffering. I was suffering for a long time, had no idea that it was possible that other people were going through what I was going through. And I remember one day I was listening to a podcast with Mike Gormy, who does the Fat Guy Forum podcast. He was talking about how his sternum had deformed at the bottom, and I had noticed that my sternum had felt funny, and I was like, "Hey, feel my sternum to Chandra." She's like, "Well, I don't know," and I'm like, "I don't think it was always like that." And then I heard somebody else telling that story, and I'm like, "Oh, that can happen from being overweight." There's just information that we don't know. And I think, and coming, and not to pick on Victor, but he comes from a fitness background, and I don't know, there's probably a lot of people that were in your expertise, how to say that probably never had, you know, obesity issues, were never overweight, but they were just in the fitness game, and then they may not have known how to handle somebody who was extra big, or, you know, may not have been as tactful. I'm just being presumptuous, but not to be mean, but really to, you know, because that's in my head. That's in my head. Like, if I go to the gym, people that are already there are going to know that I don't know what I'm doing, and they're going to make fun of me because I don't know how to work the machines. And you know what I mean? And that's in my head. That's not necessarily reality. So when I think of people who are in the health space, the fitness space, they scare me because I'm intimidated, because they already know how to do this, and I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to look like an idiot, and they're going to laugh me out of the place. And that's a real feeling that I have. But I know, even though I know that's probably not reality, that's what's up here. Yep. And I know I'm not the only one who has those feelings.
And you know, my background, we were a one-on-one personal training gym, so it was a place where you could come in, you paid. I mean, you would come in, and I'd be with you for an hour. We'd talk about nutrition, we'd do a little bit of cardio, we'd do, you know, strength training and stuff like that. And so that was a situation where I was teaching them how to do this stuff, and the people that did the best were the people, not necessarily that worked out the hardest. It was the people that did the diet that we were doing back then, which was keto, without knowing it was keto. You know, we were doing the old 70s bodybuilder diet, which was a ton of protein, a little bit of non-starchy veg, and, you know, the people that stuck to it, even if they didn't come in the gym and work out as hard, they had the best results. And a lot of them would just be like, well, you know, what's some different food ideas that we can do, you know, instead of eating chicken breast every day or whatever. And I'm like, man, do 10 more reps. Come on, let's go. We'll talk about that till you get done. But I mean, that's the reality of it, is the diet was really, the people that had the most success were the people that did that. And but you're right. Yeah, you go into a Gold's gym, man. And even when I was in the best shape I was ever in back then, you know, I was intimidated, and I worked out some people that were bodybuilders and stuff, you know, and we trained them. But if I walked into a Gold's and, you know, saw Schwarzenegger, like, dude, I mean, I was intimidated. So I was kind of glad we had that little space we could all work out in and not have to go through that. But we did. But yeah, I mean, that's a real thing. And, you know, we had some people that were, you know, 400 pounds and come in, and we would help them. And so it was that was an ideal situation for working out. So
I got a couple of super chats that came in. Christian Delorme says, "Bonjour, everybody, and Merry Christmas," for a Canadian $2. Thank you, Christian. We appreciate you very much. And it looks like this one is for Chris. It says, "Chris, when cooking fat trimmings off of ribeye, what is the best methods for them to turn out melty? Thank you," for $4.99.
Yeah. It depends on what sort of a final result you want. If what you're trying to do is get them to be soft so that you can just eat them as soft pieces of fat, The best thing you can do would be to probably fry them in a skillet on like a low heat until you get them cooked all the way through without browning them too much on the outside. You don't want to over render them because they'll get kind of dry and crispy. If you want them to be like crispy beef fat, then the best thing I would suggest is putting them in an air fryer, because they can render out and you can get them nice and crispy. And I really love doing that with beef fat trimmings. If what you're trying to do is render the beef fat so that you can use the liquid fat to cook with, then you're going to want to put that in some kind of like a saucepan over very low heat and very slowly cook that until you render as much fat out as possible, so you can then strain out the little bit of solids. So it depends on which way you want to do it, but one of those three makes it a lot easier to eat all that fat off the ribeye.
Thank you, Sherry. We appreciate that super chat, and I hope that answers your question. And there's some other comments that I've starred here. Sean saying the big thing for you guys, the big thing for guys is that you have to break down that barrier we put up. We don't want to show weakness or admit that we need help or we have a problem. And I mean, that's very true. And I think that's hopefully one thing that we'll be able to chip away at as this keto crusade marches on. Little by little, hopefully we'll find ways of outreach and community, and hopefully we'll get more guys coming in and opening up and being vulnerable, and hopefully we'll help a lot of people. So if there's people in your life, if there are men in your life, I don't know the best way to broach the subject with them. I don't know. I know that like nagging them isn't going to work. We know how we do that with the dishes and the trash, right? But I just think, maybe point them in the direction of us, maybe have them just listen to us, and maybe that'll be something that'll help them along the way.
Yeah, this is also one of the things, Victor and Dustin and I talk about this a lot, but this is one of the reasons that we're so intentional about talking about these things. We're trying to do this with this Keto Crusade concept and give people a place to go. And one of the things we're really trying to do too is stand up for people who do not have enough people already in their corner. I can tell you guys, when I was 400 pounds and full of, struggles with depression and anxiety and all these different kinds of things, if I went online, it's very much that like going to Gold's Gym and being intimidated by all the guys that are, in there big and ripped and all that kind of stuff. It's the same thing. It's just the online version of it. I was struggling and I'd go into keto groups or carnivore groups or look at comment sections on YouTube videos or whatever, and I was just trying to figure this out. Like, I didn't know how all this worked, and I was trying to figure out what I needed to do to get myself healthy, and I'm massively overweight and I'm in pain and I'm struggling and all these different things. And when you are struggling with all of that, not only do you not feel good, but you don't think clearly because of brain fog. All of that inflammation that's affecting all of the rest of your body. It's affecting your brain just as much. Your brain is inside your body and being affected by it too. So you definitely don't think clearly when you are struggling with all of those things. Hence why I think I was dealing with the depression and the anxiety. And I'd go to these places and comment sections or Facebook groups, and you have all of these pro carnivore, pro strict keto, whoever those people are, that apparently deserve balloons. And you have all of these people that sometimes are very vocal in social media groups, and everyone is entitled to say what it is they think or express their beliefs or any of these kinds of things in these groups. But something that I saw happening regularly that happened to me, and something that I still see, is people who beat other people up for asking a question they think is dumb, or for talking about what they're struggling with, or any of this stuff. And it's a very much you need to eat meat, salt, water, and get over it and just grow up. Like, it's that kind of attitude that you see a lot, and that doesn't help anybody heal or get over the thing they're dealing with. And whether we think it's dumb what someone is going through or not in our own lives, maybe that would be dumb, but to that person, that's a real thing. That's a real struggle they're going through. And the grace and the tact to meet people where they are and try to figure out what you can do to help them, and giving them the space that they can talk about what they're struggling with and not feel judged and not feel like they're walking into Gold's Gym being intimidated, trying to pick up a 5-pound dumbbell for the first time, and here's a guy bench pressing 500 pounds next to him, making fun of them. How are you supposed to get to the level of success without starting at the beginning, kind of thing? And that's a real thing that exists. And so, Dustin and Victor and I, all three, are very much like, everyone is welcome in our chat, everyone is welcome on our channel. We love to talk with anyone. You can be a vegan, you can be a strict meat, saltwater carnivore, you can be anywhere in between, and as long as you're respectful, you are welcome in the group, because we're all just trying to figure out how to do this and work together. We just put our foot down against people that use this as an opportunity to beat other people up for it. I know Dustin can probably speak to this, but he actually sent a YouTube link to Victor and I of a video by Carnivore Kip that really spoke to him kind of about this, about people being really judgmental about stuff when you're struggling with things, and it kind of tied right into what we're talking about. So that's one of the things that's really important for what we're trying to do here, is to give people that space.
That was one of the main reasons why I decided to make sure that we touched on this in this episode, because I had clicked on that video to watch what he had to say. It was a very emotional video, and I'm not really very, I don't know Kip. I don't think he knows who I am, but it was just one of those videos I just happened to see. But I'm a subscriber of his, and I've watched some of his content. But it was just it was kind of the thing that I worry about, where there can be people in every community that, when they find out that you're struggling or you're having a difficult time with something, they'll just basically tell you to double down. You're not doing it right. You're not doing it good enough. And I don't think that's the best way to handle those situations, because I know from just watching his videos that someone like Kip is in it for the long haul. They've been doing it for a long time, but someone who's doing this a month and they're struggling at a month in, and someone says, well, you're just not doing it right. You're not doing it correctly. And they're doing everything that they can, and they're doing everything in their power just to get by with where they are. I think there needs to be more grace. There needs to be more humility in the people who are responding to these things in these groups, whether it's YouTube, whether it's a Facebook group, whether it's on X or Blue Sky or wherever. It doesn't matter. I think we have to be more open to giving that grace, because we were all beginners at some point. We were all in a situation where we didn't know anything. And it was our first day or our first week. And giving somebody a hard time because they are having a hard time doesn't help anybody. And I would hopefully they truly weren't giving him a hard time, and they were doing the best they could, trying to say, hopefully the intention was to be helpful. But intent on the internet is not always conveyed. It's not always received the way that it's intended necessarily. So and his vulnerability in the video, and his being open and honest about deciding to go and get some help, and how he had talked to people, and how he's like, I'm never going to get help. And then he finally decided that he does need to go get help. I truly think that is something that is admirable. And I think that's something we could all take heed to and advice from, especially this time. I mean, not only this time of year, we know that seasonal depression hits people. The seasons, holidays hit people hard, especially in our community, because there's a lot of difficulties. There's a lot of hurdles, not just with family, but with food. And maybe you're missing somebody. Maybe maybe this is your first Christmas without somebody, or, whatever it is. And we're all struggling in some way, shape, or form. So I truly think that in this community, we have to realize that it's not only about food. It's about community. It's about friendship. It's about just being nice in the best way you can. So, I mean,
yeah,
that truly, yeah.
You sent me the link to that video, man. I watched it. I mean, it was heartbreaking. I'm like, man, and we already talked about, talking about this very thing on this episode. And I mean, you sent that, and I'm like, man, that, and a lot of times in the groups, it's real easy to hide behind the keyboard, and it's real easy, I just ask everybody, whether somebody's in there talking and they know more than I do, or if they're just starting out, they're there because they want help and they're trying to learn. And, the one comment somebody makes and it just shuts them down. And they're like, well, I don't want to be a part of this, and they go off and, it could have been the best decision of their life, but they just get completely turned off because of one little comment that may have meant nothing to you, or maybe you want to be a smart ass or whatever the case may be. And, it could have just totally turned somebody off. So yeah, I just, just be kind, think about that thing before you type it. And I get a lot of comments, and, I have to step back a lot and say, all right, let me think about this before I comment back to this. So I try to do that for myself too. And, but yeah, it's just helpful because there's a lot of people, like my private Facebook group, there's a lot of people with a lot of great knowledge, and, people making my recipes that look a whole lot better than mine, that I make, and using my recipe. And I'm like, man, so, for the most part, it's real helpful. Then there's occasionally people that come in and kind of stir things up, but, I try to make that, and my YouTube page too, a kind of a safe space where people know that I'm not going to take any crap. And if somebody's, talking bad about one of the people that are commenting, or, making comments like that, I'm not putting up with it. And, we all need a place to talk, whether it's, the YouTube comments, the Facebook groups, these live chats. We all need a place to talk. We all need a place where we can go in and just get out whatever we need to get out. And because if you hold it in, you're just going to end up exploding. And I've seen that happen a lot, especially in, the business I was in between what I do now and back when I was doing the personal training and everything. You go to work 12, 14 hours a day, you hold everything in. And three of the guys I work directly with, men that would never talk about anything, they kill themselves. And I hate to say that, but, it's reality. You got to have somebody you can talk to. You can't leave, just keep this stuff bottled up. And, I'm so glad I got people I can talk to. So,
yeah,
just having that ability, just having someone that you can actually reach out to, whether it's Chris, myself, Victor, anybody in the chat, just, the holidays are very, very troubling times for a lot of people. They're a time of great celebration, but then there's a lot of people who struggle, like I said. And so, yeah, never be afraid to reach out to one of us. We're always open. You can find me just about anywhere. You can message me on Instagram, Twitter, whatever. You can find me.
Mm-hmm. I also, Dustin and Victor and I have been chatting about this, but coming here in the new year, I'm going to have a bunch of new stuff that's all starting with the Chris Cooking Nashville stuff, and Dustin and Victor are going to be involved in parts of this as well, because we are trying to really create a community where people have support for this. So January 1st, I'm going to be involved in a live stream with somebody else, and that's a surprise of who that is, but they have a really cool story. And we're going to be involved in a live stream. I have written and I'm finishing up an ebook that will be going along with kind of the new rollout of all of this stuff. That ebook is going to be free for anyone to download from my website. So if you have friends that are interested in what is keto, what is carnivore, this is like the resource that I wish I would have had when I first went keto and carnivore. And so we're creating this whole thing. And as part of this, I've also created a private community. Dustin and Victor are both members in there, and really moderators, I guess, more admin, and they'll be able to, create stuff and everything. And we're starting to condense everything into, these various places where we're trying to collect lots of the community that's welcoming and encouraging and bring them all to one place. So you have options like this. So if you are looking for some place to go, meet friends, message people, learn about this way of life. You want to ask questions where you're not going to be judged for asking that question. You want to throw out ideas. You want to share the new product that you found at Walmart that you're super excited about, and you don't want people to like, throw knives at you for the fact that they think that that somehow isn't the best thing in the entire world, and how could you be so stupid as to eat like that kind of stuff. If you don't want those things, you want the encouragement and you want a great place to all come together. That's what we're creating this stuff for. We've got Keto Crusade we're doing. I've got my private community, which I linked in the description box on my channels for this live stream. You guys can come to my channel and find that. I've got Dustin and Victor in there. We're all going to prioritize like trying to interact with people in there with the Keto Crusade. They both have groups on Facebook or YouTube memberships or any of that. Like, these are the places you guys can go. Be a part of this stuff. Let us help you. Let us support you, and meet the people that are going through the same thing you're going through that can support you in this, because it was really hard for me when I first started this, and I wish I would have had this kind of community. But that ebook that I wrote, I'm finishing editing it now. That will be available January 1st when that live stream happens, and people can download that from my website for free, and you can share that link to anyone and everyone. It's like, hey, maybe this will help you. Hey, here's a guy who is not going to judge you for asking questions. Here's his ebook. Here's his private group. You can go ask him every question in the entire world. There's no such thing as a dumb question in my group. Like, we're creating these resources because we want you guys to have a place to go. You need a place to go. I didn't have one, and I really struggled, and I don't want anyone else out there who's going through what I went through when I first started this to experience that feeling lost on an island, feeling like I did. And so we're creating a lot of different stuff, and I have a bunch more things that are coming in the new year, and Victor and Dustin will definitely be a part of some of these ideas we're talking about with all of that stuff too. But that's just a couple of things we have going. So we've got a lot of stuff we're working on because we all need this place.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the community that Chris is putting together, and that Victor and I are going to be modding over. It's still relatively new for me. I'm still kind of clunky and learning how to navigate it. And so I'm excited to see all of you wonderful people in there. I'm in there under Keto Simple, obviously. So friend me up. We'll talk. If you have questions for me or Chris or Victor, it's a wonderful place to reach out. I mean, because there are so many places, and it's kind of a nice place to know that there's a centralized location that you can reach out to us. Maybe, I don't know how it works. I don't know if we can set up like a Keto Crusade like page or something there. I'm sure we could probably do something to where, like, if you have questions about what we talk about, or you want to talk, you want to interact with people that you meet here, that would be a great place to do that as well. And I will go and edit the description of this live on my page as well, and add the link for that Mighty Networks group that he's talking about. And I want to showcase here. Sean has graciously donated $10 super chat. Thank you so much. He says, this community saved lives. These amazing people give so much. I, for one, am very grateful for all of you who are brave enough to put yourselves out there to help others. And I think that goes a long way. I think we have to kind of put our money where our mouth is. If we want to help people, I can't be too embarrassed to talk about anything. I'm pretty much an open book. If you want to know things, I'll tell you. I'm kind of a chronic oversharer. Ask these guys, they'll tell you. They're in a chat with me all the time, and I'm not afraid to talk. So,
and I'm kind of learning my way in the Mighty Network too. But I'm glad that it's kind of it is a central location we can all go to, and it's I think, Chris, you pretty much got control over it, so it's not going to be it's not going to be like a free for all like some of these keto groups. You're in control of it. We're moderating it for you, so it should be a good space where people can come in and talk. And I'm in there too under Southern Keto, so if you're in the group, then send me a friend request in there, and you can ask me questions in there too. I try to keep up with all this stuff. I mean, it's hard. I got a Facebook group. The only thing I don't really respond to is Instagram. I don't go on there. I pretty much share whatever I've got on Facebook and YouTube on there, and that's about it. I'll go in and check that every once in a while. But so, don't don't use Instagram unless you want to wait a while to hear from me. But all the other ones, I'm pretty responsive, I think. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that Mighty Networks group. I mean, listen. Full disclosure, I'm in the process of trying to figure out how to get better at it myself. So it's a new venture, but I think it's a really great way for us to, as Victor said, like I pretty much control everything in there. So people that get out of hand, people that decide we're gonna beat other people up, like the things that when people who are really struggling go to a Facebook group looking for help, they go to Google looking for help, they go to YouTube looking for help, and then they get beaten down by people who, good intentioned or not, do not have an approach that's helpful. Those kinds of people, that's the kind of stuff that in that group we can say, nope, that's not part of what we do here. We can either correct the behavior or we can kick the person out. And so I'm in there in control of the group. Ash is moderating in there. Dustin and Victor are moderating in there. We have a few other people that will be moderating in there eventually. And we're starting to grow that group and put a bunch of stuff in. And it's just a fun place to go. I'm adding all kinds of like fun daily update recipe type stuff, like things that are extra above and beyond what you find on YouTube. And to the point that you guys were making about maybe a keto crusade tab, yes, I can create a keto crusade space in there, which I think would be super cool. And then if you hear something on our live streams here, we could go in there and have a discussion about it afterwards, so you can get access to all three of us to be able to talk with us, ask us questions. You can go in the group, you can share pictures, you can direct message other people in the group. Like it has a lot of functionality that's going to really let us do a lot of cool things. And between myself and Ash and Victor and Dustin and a few other people that I have invited to be a part of this, like I think it's going to be really, really cool because we need that community and it's a great place to do it. So you can come there and you can find all of us. And of course, make sure you're supporting Victor, make sure you're supporting Dustin. Like these guys are working so hard to be YouTubers, to put out this content. And I can tell you, as someone who does this as a full-time job, I can tell you how much work it takes to do this. I know these guys are working hard and they're not doing it because they get rich doing it. They're doing it because they care. There's a lot of work and very little reward for it. So please make sure you guys are supporting these two. If you're watching on any of my channels, make sure you go subscribe to both of their channels and vice versa. If you don't mind, if you're on their channel, please subscribe to mine. And, let's just all create this community because this is what we need. And this is how we create a space for guys to feel like they have a place where they can go and say, hey, guess what? I can't use my upstairs bathroom or my downstairs bathroom or my basement bathroom, or guess what? Now I can't use this thing in the house because I sat on it and I broke it because I realized I'm over 400 pounds and I'm embarrassed. Or, hey, I went to put on clothes today and the one pair of pants I had that I could still get on, the zipper just broke and now I have to wear sweatpants to work. And I'm afraid my boss is going to be upset and I'm like, I'm super embarrassed by this. Like these are real things. Some version of these has happened to me. I've had versions of this that have been told to me by other guys in the community and women too. Guys seem to be a little bit less willing to talk about this stuff sometimes. And I can tell you it's very embarrassing for some of these things. We need a place where we can go and rely on a community that does not judge us, that will help us, that will encourage us, that will be like, listen, I know you're down right now. I'm not going to kick you while you're down. I'm going to help you stand back up, and I'm going to give you the tools that helped me to see if they can help you. And if you're struggling, I'm in the struggle with you. I'm in the middle of the fight with you. You are not alone. You don't have to do this alone, and you don't have to be embarrassed to have to talk about some of this and work this all out. I'll tell you guys, embarrassing story. I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is, and I'm telling you guys it's okay to talk about this stuff, so I'll talk about this publicly. When I was probably close to 400 pounds, I don't know if I was quite my biggest or not, because there was about a 2.5 year period there where I just didn't weigh myself, and I didn't want to weigh myself because it was just, you hit a certain number, and from that point on, you're like, I don't care, it's just all bad, doesn't really matter what kind of bad it is, it's just all bad. So I don't know if I was at my biggest or if I was maybe not quite there. It's been a long time ago now, so I don't remember for sure. I went and visited a friend. I had to go to the bathroom while I was there, and I went in, and it was one of these older apartments that has like the really small toilets. And I tried to sit on this toilet to go to the bathroom, and I did not really fit on this toilet very well, and that was okay, whatever, kind of maneuver and do your circus act trying to get, everything in the right spot so that you don't make a mess. And I ended up having to clean urine up off of the floor because I did not fit on the toilet well enough to be able to not make a mess. And that was a moment where, I realized that I had completely lost control of my health and my life. And I was like, I've never actually told anybody that story. This is the first time I've ever said that out loud. So there you go. But it's like, that's the reality of what happens to people. And it's not just about being overweight. There are people who are very skinny that have their own health issues, and they're embarrassed to talk about whatever those things are. So it's not just weight, but it's all of these different things that can happen to you. And if you don't have a place to go to talk to people, you are living with all of that stuff just bottled up inside you, trying to hide what you are really going through. And it makes you feel like you are worthless and alone. And it's the reason that I am so passionate in the comment section about sticking up for people who don't have the confidence to stick up for themselves right now, because that's the guy that I used to be. I used to be the guy who couldn't sit on the toilet without ending up accidentally peeing on the floor and having to clean it up and not tell anybody about it, and living with the shame of feeling like I had lost so much control in my life that I couldn't even go to somebody's apartment and not make a mess and not embarrass myself. And that's a fear that nobody wants to live with. And I don't want anybody else out there, male or female, to ever feel like they are alone and struggling with that the way I did.
It's powerful stuff, Chris, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. And I've been in situations just like that, among other things, whether it be I went to a friend's house, and this one isn't thankfully toilet related, but just I was going to sit in a chair, and he was like, "Hey, don't sit in that chair because it's antique, and I don't think to hold you." And that's a whole other level of embarrassment. And and these things take place over the course of years, and it kind of builds up and builds up and builds up. And there's things that happen, when you go out to dinner with friends, and you go for dessert afterwards, and you feel like they're staring at you because you've got more ice cream than they did or whatever. There's just a lot. And most of it, just like when I was talking about the idea of what I anticipate things being like going to a place like the gym, I'm sitting there with my friends, people who care about me, thinking I know what they're thinking and thinking the worst, knowing that they're not thinking about me. But in my head, that's exactly what they're thinking about. And that stuff gets in there, and that kind of stuff is a cancer. That kind of negativity. And I think it spreads across all types of things, and not just our community and our diet related things, but self-doubt. Even as a creator, even as doing this channel, I battled self-doubt. Will my video be good enough? Will people actually watch this video? Will people see my video and go, "You're stupid. You don't know what you're talking about"? These are all things that we battle day to day, whether it's our health journey, things that we're passionate about, things that, you know, I mean, any of these things, live streams, everything. And I think just being able to have a place to be open and honest. And I was kind of thinking about what you said about the tab of the Mighty Networks. I think that could be a place where if people do not feel comfortable sharing a story, or it might be a longer story where they can't post it in one of these comments because they're restricted characters, an amount of characters. And if you could say, you want to share something in the Mighty Networks, you can reach out to us, say, "Hey, this is my story. I want people to know my story, but I don't know but I may not want them to know it came from me in particular." Do that, share with us. We'll share that out. You have topics of future Keto Crusade episodes, what you want us to talk about, what you want, any topics, concerns, things that you see in our community that aren't being addressed, because we don't see everything. you guys are out there watching everything, and you're kind of our eyes and ears because we try to watch. I know I try to watch as many creators as I can, and I fall very short.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean,
yeah,
in your head's the worst place to be, and that's why it's so important to have somewhere to go, somebody you can talk to, because the more you hold that stuff in, you're in your head, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And like you said, you could walk in the gym and nobody's even looking at you, but you think they are, and that gets in your head, and that just keeps compounding and compounding until you got to be able to let it out. So I'm excited to get more involved in that group. Obviously, it's a busy time of year for me, and so I've tried to do what I could. But I look forward to being more involved in that this coming year. And I've got a lot of exciting things coming up, a lot of good ideas, and recipes I want to do, and some teaching type stuff too, because people have really kind of responded to that too. So we've got a background that's kind of unique. So I want to kind of bring a little bit more of that out this year too. And of course, I'm gonna have some good recipes and dessert recipes, all that kind of stuff, y'all. But anyway, so I'm excited for 2025 for sure.
I wanted to touch on this. There's a super chat. I'm not sure which one of you this belongs to, but I'm probably going to butcher this. It says balanitis and pustular psoriasis in hips. I'm guessing that they're asking if we have any suggestions for those types of things. Now, again, I'm going to state this for all three of us. We're not healthcare professionals, doctors, or nurses, so we're not going to be able to give any health advice. But I would recommend maybe looking into, with psoriasis, looking at an elimination type of diet, carnivore or lion diet to start off with. It doesn't necessarily mean that would be something you would do forever, but it could be something that could help clear that up. But that would definitely be something that I would look into, and I would not be saying that I'm giving advice to do that, just to look and see if that's right for you. And then,
I was just gonna say I will add in there. So any kind of psoriasis, anything like that, skin related, any of that kind of stuff. If you go in the communities and you research other people who are reporting what they have done for this kind of stuff, a lot of people talk about these kinds of things. They go carnivore, and they go pretty strict carnivore, like meat, salt, water for like 90 days, or like a BBBE, beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, like Dr. Berry kind of carnivore, as an elimination diet. And then if they stick to that and they start to see improvement in things like, these types of skin issues or different things, and then they slowly reintroduce one thing at a time. And like when you introduce something, you introduce it, and you don't introduce another thing for like 3 to 5 days, because you want your body to have time with that one thing to see if it reacts or not. And you can, by a process of elimination, go through and figure out maybe what's in your body that's reacting that way. That seems to be kind of the approach that most people use, that they find really successful for any kind of skin, anything. So I'm not sure what balanitis is, but pustular psoriasis, I would assume, being a skin thing like that, is probably very similar to the other types of skin things people report. And carnivore is kind of, even if it's not what you want to stick to, an elimination diet, so that you then can come back the other way and figure out what in your diet might be causing those things and kind of heal some of that. That's probably what most people would recommend. Like Dustin said, none of us are doctors. This is not medical advice. This is information and entertainment and education only. But that's what, if I was in your shoes, if it was me, that's what I would do for myself. I have dry skin, psoriasis type, things going on with like my scalp and my face, or I used to, and all of that went away when I went carnivore. So that's the direction that I personally would go, just because of my own experience in that.
Yep. And I am a certified nutritional consultant, so I do have more experience in nutrition than any doctors do, other than the ones that have self-studied. But in medical school, they get 6 to 8 hours of training in nutrition, and that's it. But all your itises are inflammatory conditions. And just like what Chris was saying, the closer you can get down to carnivore, and if you're standard American diet, I don't know what you're eating right now. But the lower the carbs can go, the better. And moving towards carnivore for sure. The balanitis, somebody can put that in the comments on what that is. Not sure I can say that on here with YouTube, but for sure that condition, a total elimination diet would be the direction I would go for sure. Start off slow if you need to, if you're not already doing low carb. But that is one of the things that you need to go to as close to meat and salt as possible.
See, Dustin, is your mic muted, or am I just not hearing anything?
My mic is muted. I boomered it. All right. So, all right.
So everything you just said, say again.
Yeah. So anyway, we got a super chat. Thank you. $5. Thank you. It says, earlier this year, I decided to take a risk and be vulnerable and chronicle my clinical depression on social media. Anyway, I would say I truly appreciate that. And I think that that is very commendable because that is a very difficult thing to do. I don't know how I would be able to do that. I mean, I know it's difficult putting any kind of personal information, especially, I know we're doing that here, but it's very commendable, and I truly appreciate, and I hope that was or is a positive experience and people are getting a benefit out of that. And I wanted to kind of go ahead and segue into the next portion of our live about talking about preparations that we may have for 2025. Now, I know, Chris, you did talk about some of the projects that you have going forward for 2025, but I want to talk to you both more in line about personal. What do you have? Are you going to be continuing on with your current lifestyle? Are you planning any changes, any fasts, anything like that for 2025?
Sure. Okay, so for me, I will be continuing on carnivore. There will be a couple of things that I'm going to adjust. Number one, I'm going to try to reduce my dairy intake a little bit further, just because I love dairy. I love dairy. I love cheese. I love cream. I love all of those things. But I do struggle with skin issues, itchy scalp, dry skin, like we were kind of talking about. And although that is gone, if I get a little loosey-goosey with too much dairy, I notice I do get some itchiness type stuff that does maybe still seem like it wants to creep up. So I would like to try to cut out dairy as much as I can and see if that kind of makes a difference. The other thing that I want to do is I want to attempt, and I'm not in any way saying I guarantee I'm going to be able to achieve this, but I want to attempt in 2025 to really tighten up on doing carnivore, figure out what it is I need to do, add in some physical movement. I got like some exercise bands. I want to start doing some stuff here in my YouTube cave when I'm spending all those long hours sitting editing videos, like get some physical movement going on. And I would really like to try to hit close to, if not my ideal body weight in 2025 by the end of the year. I think that's probably somewhere between 50 and 80 pounds that I would like to lose, depending on where my body wants to go. My goal is to get as close to, I want to hit somewhere between 200 and 220 pounds, because when I was in high school, I was about 185 pounds, and I was in Taekwondo. I was in great shape. I was, doing all this stuff, and I was at 185 pounds. Now, that was me at 17 years old. I have bulked up bone-wise and just body composition wise since then. So I don't think getting to 185 is probably, maybe my body would do it. I don't know. But it's not the first goal that I have. So somewhere between 2 and 220 is where I want to try to get in 2025. And then see where my body is. Let my body tell me how it feels, what's going on, do I still have more to lose, etc. And I want to kind of figure out what it is I need to do with that. Now, there may be some fasting that goes along with that. You know, I've talked with these guys, and I've talked with some people in some of my live streams about a series of videos that I want to do where I would actually eat a cheat meal, right? Standard American diet food, and actually track what happens to my blood sugar and my ketones and all this kind of stuff to show people what is actually happening to my body as someone who's on carnivore. Then do another video where I would talk about, okay, so how is that food actually made? What goes into that? What are you actually eating? Because a lot of us don't know when you go out to a restaurant what's in that food. A lot of people don't know how that food is prepared, and I would like to give people that information and show them, and to then do a video where I give you a keto or a carnivore alternative. So if you want that food, you do not have to go out and consume that. So it's a new video series. I'm toying with the idea of doing this. But I also think it puts really to the forefront of, if I was to do something like that, that would be like a once a month thing. That is not like a, hey, I'm going to do, a video like this every week. My body would not want me to do that. But if I did that once a month, it would then show very intentionally my process of, when I have something that's not carnivore, what do I then do the next 3 to 5 days to put myself back on track where I need to go? And then what do I do to be strict to get myself healed even further than that? And what happens if I, try these things? Because to be perfectly honest, like I've had a few cheat meals since I have gone carnivore. After my 365 days carnivore thing that I did, I loosened up a little bit with that to allow myself to have things from time to time, whether it be keto or even the occasional standard American diet thing that I've added in for like a celebration or something. I've done that, and so I know what my body does. I have experienced this. I know what happens to it, and I know what I need to do. But I think it would be really helpful information for other people to see what it is I do and to know why that food is doing that to me and why it may also do the same thing to them. And I think it would be really cool to balance that with, I'm trying to hit my ideal body weight. So what do I do when I'm not eating a perfect carnivore diet? What do I do to work on my own health, my own healing, and get myself there to that, as close as I can, if not hitting it, my goal of my ideal, at least my first ideal body weight, and then, hit that 2 to 220 pound range, and then reevaluate, like, where am I at? What do I now need to do? Do I need to lose more? Is my body good here? Go for that. So that's kind of my goal in 2025 personally, is to balance out my whole keto carnivore thing and see if I can't hit that ideal weight range, or at least my first goal weight range that I had when I started this whole thing.
Yeah, that's why it's so important that we're all together doing this. Because, like you said, your body, how, what you can and can't do. For me, dairy is not as much of an issue. For 2025, I'm going to pretty much, kind of do the same thing, low carb to keto, kind of in that spectrum. But I am going to focus a little bit more on some higher protein type things. I got, we're talking about men earlier. Well, I've got a lot of women that watch, and particularly as women get older, you need more protein. And so I've had a lot of requests for higher protein type things. I also want to do a lot of things with, people will go out and buy, you want to make one recipe, you'll go buy a big jug of something. And, I got cabinets full of stuff, ingredients. And so it's another thing I want to focus on is just taking some of those ingredients and what do you do with them? You've made one recipe and then forgot about it, and now you got the stuff sitting. And so I think that would be helpful. So I want to kind of focus on that, some more high protein stuff. And personally, I want to get out and do some more hiking and stuff. I love getting outside, and that's what I recommend for everybody. You don't necessarily need to go to a gym or get on the treadmill and or the hamster wheel, as I call it. Do what's fun. Do what you like. If you like swimming, go swimming. If you like hiking, hike. If you like walking around the neighborhood, do that. But I'm just going to personally try to be a little more active. I don't think I'll get back in the gym this year. I was in there for so long, for so many years. And, I'd go at 5 o'clock in the morning. I had to be at work at 8, and I'd go at 5 o'clock in the morning to work out for a while. And I enjoyed it then. Now I'm going to enjoy hiking and just getting outdoors and doing more of the things that I like to do, which is what I'd encourage anybody to do. Because if it's not fun, you ain't going to stick with it. But if you're having fun, you can stick with it. So that's personally, Dustin, that's what I'm working on for the coming year.
I think for myself, one thing that I'm going to continue doing is looking at consistency. And I know I kind of beat that word to death, but I think consistency is one of those things that kind of gets overlooked. I do plan to do a 7-day fast. I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to start it. Typically, I usually start at about the 2nd, but I don't think it's going to work for me this time, this year coming up. So I'll probably be starting that around the 5th, maybe. And we'll work in that, and I will let everybody know who's interested if anybody wants to follow along with a fast, just 7-day water fast. Just including, salty, clean slate salty, or just salt and things like that. So I want to be more diligent about being cleaner, more choosy on the not cheat days that I have, but there's almost always some kind of an excuse that comes up, someone's birthday, someone this, something that. And I have been more lax over the last few years. I kind of want to get back to basics a little bit as well. Just try to simplify things as much as I can. These are all plans. Obviously, I need to move more. I need to be up and moving around more. I sit too much. I'm too sedentary. I mean, as a creator and as somebody who makes content, it's easy to sit down and start working on something and 5 hours goes by and you have no idea that 5 hours has gone by, except that you have to go to the bathroom real bad. And I'm sure Chris can attest to that, and Victor and some of you in the chat as well. Like, once you start kind of sit down and actually put your focus to something, I know I can hyperfixate on something sometimes. Like, if I really want to do something and I want to get it done and I want to get it done just right, I know that I can just block everything out and just go right at it. And hopefully I can do that and maintain some better consistency in 2025 than I had in 2024. So I wanted to look, there was some let's see. Like Sean said, there's been a lot in the chat, so it's hard to keep up with everybody. I've been trying to star certain things, but Sean saying in 2025, I'm committed to going to the gym at work more. Need to go at least 3 times a week. And we've got people saying that they're deeply grateful for our vulnerabilities. There's a lot of great comments in here. Talking about counting and not wanting to count. Talking about calories and such. Let's see. This is something that I found interesting. Evelyn says, I found it's better for my health to order burgers, even at steak places. They put way too much marinade with seed oils on steaks. I had never thought of that. I don't go out just for steak enough. So typically, it's such a rarity for me that when I do go out for a steak, I don't really even consider it, I guess. I mean, it's probably once a year I go out for steak, because steak is one of those things we eat at home all the time. So it's not something that I want to spend more money on going out to eat. I'm more likely to go out for anybody who's joined me at Rockstar Pizza. They make a fathead pizza. That's something that I don't necessarily want to make. It's taking that away from me, so I can just go and get it and eat it, and I'm happy. But things like steaks and burgers and fast food and things like that, I just don't typically do that. I don't think, like, for what it costs, I'm getting any value out of it when I'm usually not that far away from home. I know a lot of people utilize that. Like, for me, I'm just glad that McDonald's has Coke Zero. So if I do want to stop somewhere and get myself something when I'm out and about running errands. I can stop in and get Coke. I know that Costco in 2025 is going to be switching from Pepsi to Coke. So in their little food courts, they're going to have Coke. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they'll have Coke Zero and not just Diet Coke. But if they have just Diet Coke, that'll be a lot less soda that I drink when I'm at Costco. I know that sounds a little weird, but I just don't like Diet Coke. So that'll be a lot easier for me to just drink water. Just realistically, I think moving more. I know, not eating less, moving more. We know what that is, but just simplifying myself. One thing I want to do in 2025, and I think it goes without saying, I know that we are going to be continuing this Keto Crusade into 2025 once a month. Hopefully, if things take off and you guys truly enjoy this, we can do some really awesome Mighty Networks with Chris. We'll create a thing and reach out to any of us. Let us know what you want to see in 2025, the videos you want to see each of us make. We're all creators. We all make different kinds of content. So reach out to each and every one of us and let us know what you want to see more of on our channels. I think that's a benefit because we want to help you. And the best way for us to help you is to know what you're looking for. Yeah, I'm excited for 2025. Extremely excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking forward to 2025. I think there's going to be a lot of cool projects. So that comment that Evelyn made about steaks versus burgers because of the seed oils, this is a good example of what I mean, and this is why I think things like the community we're creating here for questions and sharing of knowledge can be so important. It's why the video series I'm talking about doing is so important. So when you go to a steak restaurant, think about what a steak is supposed to have. A steak is supposed to have the crusty brown outer layer, right? When the steak comes to the table and it looks really good and it's got that crusty brown outer layer. Well, a lot of restaurants, they're not cooking with a grill back there when they do steaks, because steaks on a grill, you're dripping a lot of grease and there's all these different issues. So if you go to one of those steak houses where they have like the grill marks on the steak because they're cooking on an actual grill, you sometimes don't deal with this as much. But especially if you go to like Outback Steakhouse is a good example. I used to wait tables in an Outback, so I spent a bunch of time back in the kitchen. When they cook their steaks, not the fire grilled ones, but they're ones that are done on the flat top griddle, those would be cooked with a little bit. They have a bottle of oil, probably canola, vegetable oil, something like that, and they put oil down on that griddle before they slap that steak down, because they want that super hot griddle with a really high heat oil to put that crisp on the steak, because people don't want to buy a steak that comes out looking gray and sloppy. They can make one of those at home. They want a chef that can cook a steak that looks super crispy and brown and high end and all that kind of thing, and they want it as cheap as they can get it. How do you do that? You use a griddle and you get it really, really smoking hot with a high smoke point oil, like a canola oil or a vegetable oil. Very few places invest in beef tallow for something like that. And so they put that real crispy layer on that steak, and that's what happens. Now, when you get a burger, they usually don't have to add any oil because the burger has a higher fat content, because they usually buy the cheap burger. So they put it down on the griddle dry and it melts out its own fat. So you don't get near as much of things like seed oils put on things like a burger. Also, a lot of times they'll put a hot steak on a plate and they'll take a whipped butter spread, which is a bunch of vegetable oil with some butter flavoring. They'll put whipped butter spread right over top of it as soon as it comes off the grill to melt down over it. So what Evelyn's talking about, these are the kinds of things a lot of people don't know that this sort of stuff is going on. And it's like, if someone in the community is like, oh, I worked at such and such restaurant, I can tell you what they did in the kitchen. You can come in my private community and tell everybody that. And then we all know and we can avoid it. Like, I remember there was another creator that put out something saying that the burger patties at In-N-Out were cooked in seed oils, and you should avoid In-N-Out Burger because they cook everything in seed oils. And I immediately looked at my wife, who was a manager, not just a manager, a training manager of an In-N-Out. And I said, don't they just cook the beef on the griddle? And she was like, yeah, it's beef, it's salt, it's pepper, and you put it on a hot griddle. There's no oil added to anything. That's one of the things they're intentional about. So there's bad information out there. And when you can get good information directly from the source, you can help a lot of people with it. So what Evelyn's talking about there is like, hey, maybe avoid steaks at certain steakhouses and go for the burger when you're at those steakhouses, or maybe go to a certain steakhouse that you know doesn't do that, where you know you can get a good steak, or use a Chris Cooking Nashville video to learn how to put a great sear on a steak and just make it at home like Dustin's talking about. And whatever the solution is for each individual person, we have all of that information. But that's a really good example though of like something that's very simple that seems very dumb to think that would help that many people, but something like that being distributed amongst people in a community can help so many people start to do things like cut seed oils out of their diet.
Yeah, and Chris, I know you've touched on this before about the Chinese food in particular. I mean, you can go to a Chinese restaurant, think you're eating, just all meat, but there's so much junk in it. The seed oils and the hidden sugar and all the stuff that they put in there to make it addictive, even if it's just a hunk of chicken. And it doesn't, they put so many things in there. In some of the higher end steak places, like Roost Chris, they use a 1200 degree oven, things like that. Good quality, but I mean, you're going to pay for it at the same time. But yeah, you're right. Like the Outback special, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's, you would know better than I what they put on it, but I know it ain't good. So, one thing I want to touch on too, for as far as 2025 is, a lot of people are going to take January 1st as the deadline, and this is when I'm changing everything. So, the first thing you got to do is have a plan in place. As the old saying, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And so, get a plan together, start now. Write it down on paper. I mean, old school. There's just something about when you write on paper, and it's neural things in the brain. It's a whole thing I won't get into, but it's just different when you write it down, and when you look at it every single morning, you're like, all right, here we go. And every fork full of food that you put in your mouth is a choice. If you're living in that moment, you can't change what happened yesterday. And you can plan for the future, but if you're present in the moment right now, and everything that you do it intentionally, and you stick to the plan, you're going to succeed in 2025. So it's my motivational little bit there.
I totally agree, Victor. And something that Ash and I do, and maybe this will be helpful for people. We talk about this in our Monday morning motivation live streams that I do pretty regularly. So we have goals for the year. Like we have the things we want to achieve in 2025, but we go a lot more than that because it is difficult as a human being to think about a lofty goal that's a year away. And it's so easy to be overwhelmed by that. What happens to everybody's New Year's resolutions, right? They all, January 1st, the gyms are full of people who are all going to get healthy. And by February, they're empty because people can't stick to it because they're looking at where they're trying to get to at the end of the year, at the beginning of the year. So something that we do that I think a lot of people can benefit from, take a moment, think about where you want to be by the end of 2025, great. And then you need to go back and you need to backtrack through your timeline of that year, and you need to put waypoints along the way of here's this short-term goal, here's this short-term goal. And so what Ash and I do is we have quarterly goals. We don't really do New Year's resolutions. We have quarterly goals. Here's what I want to get done over the next 3 months, because that is a chunk of time that I can focus on. I can divide it up into here's step 1, month 1, step 2, month 2, step 3, month 3. And then we revisit and we talk about quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. This is why businesses do this, right? Successful businesses all around the world do quarterly earnings reports, quarterly goals, quarterly metrics, because as human beings, we are better at tracking what we're trying to achieve in that shorter amount of time. And that 3-month time frame it's very neat with the way our months all line up with our calendar year, but it's also really beneficial for just the way our brains work to break things down into smaller, achievable goals. So when I tell you guys I want to hit my 200 to 220 pounds by the end of 2025, what that means is when I'm not on a live stream with all of you, going to sit down and I'm going to look at, so what am I going to do the first 3 months? And that's what I'm going to focus on. And then when I get to that, then I'm going to say, okay, well, now what do I need to do for the next 3 months to try to ramp up what I'm doing or get to the next place or achieve this thing or whatever. And then at the end of that, I sit down and do another. So do quarterly goals for yourself instead of getting this huge, lofty New Year's resolution that's 12 months long, that's so far out and so unattainable you feel like you can't get there. Like, there's nothing wrong with the New Year's resolution and the goal, but don't focus on trying to take your entire year all in one bite. Bring it into actual achievable goals and steps along the way, and don't beat yourself up for not getting to the end of the journey from the very beginning. Start at the beginning, do it one step at a time, rely on us here in the community to encourage you along the way, and revisit this quarterly and keep updating your goals and keep pushing little by little so that you set yourself up for success. And like Victor said, write it down, because of the neurotransmitters in your brain and how they respond to you doing that, learning it in multiple ways. My mom is an educator. She'll give you a whole diatribe on this. If you set yourself up for success like that, you're going to have so much more success, and that's why we're all here to encourage you to do it.
Yeah, that kind of goes into knowing yourself too. I mean, for some people, it may be that you need to do a weekly goal because maybe, 3 months, but maybe too long for you. You may need to do a daily goal, just like today, I am not going to eat what I ate yesterday, and then, as it keeps snowballing, I mean, you'll underestimate what you're able to achieve in a year. If you just do one day at a time, do the best you can every single day, look back a year from now and see how far you've come.
Yeah, I think that Stephen Stone said it here best. It says short-term achievable goals are essential to one's success. So it's just, I mean, I think when we're talking about 2025, I think we're looking, at the big picture, but I think on a, as a macro, as the whole year. But I think when we're looking at what we need to do for ourselves, the idea of whether you need day to day, week to week, hour to hour, whatever it is you need, depending on where you are, if you're week 1 into this or you're year 9 into this, your goals are going to be different. Your strategy is going to be different, and your level of understanding of yourself is going to be different. I think one main goal, for all of us is to better understand ourselves in 2025. I think what was one of the major things that I have come to terms with over the last 9 years of living a ketogenic lifestyle is understanding me, because I have to understand what impacts me. Why do I, why when I get stressed out, do I want to eat? Why do I have a tendency to just fixate on a food and want that? What is it about me? What do I need to do? How did I get where I was? All these things over the last 8 years, you have to break down and understand yourself. I think there's a lot of people that don't tackle that component, and they just rely solely on the diet and not making it a lifestyle to where, I'm keto or whatever becomes their entire identity, or carnivore becomes their identity, and they lose themselves in it. But they never address those issues that truly kind of started the snowball effect that got them where they ended up. And I think, hopefully as these episodes go on month to month, we can touch on these and maybe break those down a little bit into more manageable, digestible topics, on, what we can understand about it, ourselves, whether it's food control, overeating, food avoidance, whatever the case is. So I think that's something that hopefully we can touch on across the next year. Just let us know.
Yeah, and if you think of it more as a lifestyle than just a diet, then especially this time of year. I mean, if you go out and you go to a family gathering and you have say somebody made cookies and you have a cookie. If you think of it more as a lifestyle, then it's not so much of a derailment. Okay, so I had a cookie that my niece made. Okay, how often is she going to do that? I mean, I see her once a year. How often am I going to tell her no? I can't do it. But if you think of it more as a lifestyle, then it doesn't totally derail it. So okay, I did that, so now I get right back on track the next day, or the next bite, or whatever the case is. That's something a lot of people are dealing with, I feel like, right now. But don't let that totally derail your lifestyle. If you think of it more as a diet, then okay, I've totally ruined my diet, so now I'm going off the rails. I'm going to eat all the things. Don't do it. Just, you did that, cool. Get right back on track. That's I know a lot of you are dealing with that right now. I get emails and and messages and all that. So just hang in there.
Mm-hmm. And if you guys are all dealing with that, come find us in the community and say, I'm struggling. Please give me some advice. Please help me. Don't be embarrassed to tell us that. We've all done it. We've all done it. I'm pretty open about this on my channel, but I did keto. I went carnivore the first time, lost a bunch of weight. All of this stuff was great. Never dealt with a carb addiction issue that I had, which was really more of a mental issue than anything I have discovered. And I went back off the rails and I gained like half of the weight back that I lost because I just lost control. And I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't reach out to people. I felt embarrassed. I isolated myself from just anyone and everyone that would have known anything about keto and carnivore. And this is before I ever had a YouTube channel, so I didn't have a community to rely on. Like, I completely lost control, and then I was embarrassed to talk to people. So if this is you and you're struggling, don't be embarrassed and don't isolate yourself. Please come find us. Please let us encourage you and help you. Even if you're struggling, that's when you need people like this community more than ever. You're not alone. Don't isolate yourself and don't let yourself be embarrassed to a point where you won't let us help you.
And I think it's so important for us because as creators, sometimes we have to overcome the idea that we are afraid to talk about our failures. I try to be very open. I try to talk about, I try to be open and honest and talk about every little thing, whether it's live on a Tuesday or Sunday morning, one of these, whether it's taking my granddaughter out for her Friday Culvers. She loves Culvers on Friday. And whether she feeds me a couple of fries or not, because sometimes I'm on my way to take her to Culver's and she falls asleep in the car seat. I still take her to the drive-thru, get her fries and her tiny little cup of ice cream, and I take her home and she eats it at home. Or if she's awake and having a good day, we'll go inside and we'll get it together and we'll sit and spend time together. And if she offers me French fries, how often do you really get to spend that kind of time with your granddaughter? I'm not going to turn down a couple of pieces of fry, and she's gonna be like, well, because then she gets worried too. She's like, we were doing something the other day and Chandra told her, Paul can't have that. It makes his tummy hurt. And so she was afraid for me to eat that because she thought my tummy was going to hurt. She said, no, it's good. It's bad for you, Paul. It's bad for you. And I mean, we got to be careful of the information we provide our kids, and we've got to be careful with, how we live our lives in front of our kids. We want to make sure we're leading by example, but we also got to remember that it wasn't one order of fries that got us where we were. It wasn't one milkshake that got us where we were. It wasn't one failure that got us to where we were. And what Victor said, if you have a stumble, if you have a cheat day, a cheat week, just the next time you put something on your plate, in your mouth, whatever it is, make sure it's on track. Don't give up. We're here. We've been there. I've been doing this 8 years and I'm still not to my goal weight. So obviously I've made mistakes, but I want to make sure that we showcase that because that way that you're not alone because I'm not perfect. And that means you don't have to be either. Now you could be better than me. I encourage it. Do things differently than I did. Learn from my mistakes. but I'm not going to hold you accountable for my mistakes. So, yeah. So I think, do we want to go ahead and kind of give our final thoughts? Do we want to kind of talk about what we have coming up? Because we're about an hour and a half.
I can certainly jump in and give you guys just some final thoughts, tell you a little bit about what I've got coming up. So I just love everyone that is in this community that is so willing to support each other and be a part of what we do. One, it's just been a place for me to go and learn and save my own life by fixing all of these things. And I still have, health things to work on, sure, but I have the confidence that I can do it and I'm not living in fear of anything anymore like I used to. And so it's a huge gift that this community has given me to be able to have that kind of control. And the community has meant such a great deal to me. That's why I created my channel, because I wanted to try to help other people the way that I needed help. And sometimes I found it and sometimes I didn't find what I was looking for. And so I'm trying to create those resources. So I'm doing everything that I know how to try to help you guys and to try to get as much of the resources out there that can help you, and not just help you, but that you can then share with other people to help them, because it's great to help turn your own life around. I honestly think it's even better after you've done it to then use that to help turn someone else's life around. Nothing feels as good as people telling you that what you have done makes a difference for them. And I think it's a really amazing thing we get to do in this community. So that's why we need people here to talk with all of us, and that's why we want you to tell your stories, and that's why we want you to be open and vulnerable, guy or girl. And that's why we have private communities you can come join and interact with each other and interact with us and create, these spaces where we can do all of these things and support each other. And so that's what all of this is about. So for me, I've got that ebook, which is like a keto and carnivore introduction for real people book. That's going to be coming out January 1st, and it'll be a free download for everyone who wants that. All you got to do is pop in your email, and I promise I'm not going to sell your email. I'm not going to spam you with things. I'm not going to do any of that. I send out a once weekly newsletter starting in January. That's all it's going to be. So you drop in your email, you can get a free copy of that book, share it with people, send the link to people, whatever. Just use this as a recipe for changing people's lives. You know me, I'm all about the recipes, right? So this is a recipe to change people's lives. And I tried to write it simply and make it something that's useful and usable and very common sense. And then you can get into all of the depths of that the further that you go. So that's going to be there. I have the private community where we can all congregate and we can all support each other and share stories. And on the back end of this live stream, I'll go in and I'll create a space that is specifically for Keto Crusade. So if it's related to any of the things in here, you can post in there about any of the stuff we talked about, pictures, there's video options, there's, all this kind of stuff. If you have questions, you want to see future ideas, whatever, I'll make that space so that Victor and Dustin and I can all three specifically watch that for things as it relates to this thing we're doing here. Like Dustin and Victor were talking about, we're in there. We want you guys to reach out to us. If, like we said, if you have a story you want to share, but you're like, I kind of would like to share this anonymously and not necessarily tell all of the whole world that I'm the person that told this story, you can direct message me in that private group and you can tell me your story, and it will stay between you and I, and it will never go anywhere else. And I will be glad to post that as an anonymous story that may inspire and help other people. If that's something you're just not wanting to share with your name attached to it, but you think it could help people or inspire people or show people they're not alone, you can absolutely come in the private community and you can direct message me. I respond to all my messages. I'm the one in there doing it. So come in there and message us and talk with us and tell us these things and ask for help and share suggestions and ideas and success stories and whatever it is. We've got that going. the January 1st live stream. It's going to be on my channel, but it's going to be with someone else, really on their channel. But I'll be sharing it to my channel. So please, please mark your calendars. In the morning, I have to double check what time it's going to be, but watch my channel for the announcement. But in the morning on January 1st is going to be a live stream that will be announcing some new stuff coming, and some new partnerships, and some really cool stuff that's going to happen. And I think Victor and Dustin and I are going to be working on a whole bunch of things related to some of the connections that I'm working on there and different things. And then, we have, of course, the holidays are here, and Christmas is coming up in a couple of days. Merry Christmas to everybody, or whatever it is you celebrate. Merry, happy, whatever it is that you like to celebrate. Merry, happy, everything, as they say. And I hope you guys have an amazing time with family, friends, whatever you're celebrating that you just enjoy, whatever it is you do to celebrate after the Christmas holiday. On Saturday, which I believe is December 28th. I told people in the private community in my Patreon group and all that about this already, but I'll tell you guys now. On the 28th, I think is one of the most interesting recipes I've ever used, I've ever created, and I think it's going to be something you might be able to use for all those New Year's Eve parties coming up. Carnivore potato chips are coming out on Saturday. I have worked for almost 2 years to get these right, and I'm very excited about them. I'm stoked to share this recipe, and I'm really excited about that. So I'm just going to be continuing to try to create these sorts of things for you guys, and come up with just the most ridiculous ways of creating things everyone thought was impossible, so that if you have these times when you want to celebrate, you want to do these things, and you want to try not to compromise on a proper human diet, whatever that looks like for you, I'm going to try to give you as many options as I know how to give you guys, because it's a pleasure and an honor and a passion for me to get to do that, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So ebook, private community, January 1st live stream, carnivore potato chips, and that's pretty much what I got to share with you guys tonight.
Well, I'm just mind blown over the carnivore potato chips. I swear I don't know how you come up with this kind of stuff. I can't even come up with a keto potato chip. So carnivore, that's wild. So I can't wait to see it anyway. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the new year and doing some things in the Mighty Network group. And I'm got a couple videos coming up. This coming Saturday, I got a key lime pie. Can't stay away from the desserts. But I'm going to be doing some more stuff, some easy keto meals this year. Some quick stuff, because really, and we've talked about it before. This kind of what we do. We make the recipes and stuff, but other than that, it's really a lot of good simple stuff, and you can really make really, really tasty simple stuff. So I'm gonna do a lot of that this year. A lot of people have asked for that, so I'm gonna do it, which is gonna be real easy, because that's pretty much what I do a good bit of the time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to being involved with you two guys, and it always amazes me at how much people share things. We get a report as YouTube creators every week on the number of likes and the number of watches and the number of shares, and it is always amazing to me how much y'all share stuff. And the weight loss is a big part of it, but you got people with type 2 diabetes. A lot of the videos are going to people that it will help like that, other health conditions, like I said, type 2, the high blood pressure like I had. There's so much that these two guys and a few of my recipes can really help some people. So, and like Chris said, when he gets this ebook that comes out, y'all share that, because that's going to help a lot of people. It's kind of up to all of us as our community to share this stuff, because you ain't going to hear it in the mainstream media. You ain't going to hear it in school. So it's up to all of us to share this information. And I just want to wish each and every one of you, I appreciate you all watching, and want to wish each and every one of you a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We're going to have an awesome 2025. So look forward to sharing it with all y'all.
As far as me, as far as what I've got going on, I have a video that's in the process of being edited. I've started it last week, editing it. I don't know what's taking me so long. It's just procrastination, but it is a video talking about nutrition labels, what to look for, what they tell you, what they don't tell you, that type of stuff, because we're all looking at nutrition labels, but there's a lot of things hidden in plain sight with those. So be on the lookout for that. It should come out probably, hopefully tomorrow sometime, maybe, but I make no promises. But yeah, then Thursday, Shannon and I will go live on a Thursday because we're not going to go live Tuesday or Wednesday because of Christmas and Christmas Eve and all those things. So we'll be spending time with our families. I just want to say thank you all so much for all of your wonderful support. Each and every one of you, whether you're watching from Chris's channel, Victor's channel, it truly means the world to me and these gentlemen too. And not to speak for them, but I know that it does because we talk about it. And if you are subscribed to me, be sure you're subscribed to them. If you're subscribed to them, try to subscribe to us. I have a toy that I am working on that I have for my members. It's I call it a toy. It is it's a recipe meal planner creator calculator. You just go in and tell it who you are, like what you are. Are you keto? You carnivore? Are you looking for protein sparing modified fasts? Are you looking for a 5-day meal plan, a 6-day meal plan, 7-day meal plan? What are you looking for? It's going to, you can tell it you want beef, chicken, shrimp, fish, whatever you want. You can tell it to add in vegetables, not have vegetables. It will spit out recipes, a meal plan. How many you want? 1 meal a day, 2 meals a day, 3 meals a day. It'll spit everything out for you. It's in a beta right now. I want people to play with it. It is only open to people that are members of my channel, but that's only 99 cents a month. So if that's something you may be interested in, go and check that out. See if you can break it. See if you can find flaws, because we've had to change a few things over time just because the nature of information and what it thinks is and what it's pulling, you have to kind of teach it. So check it out. See if you can see if you like it. I know Sean's tried it. He likes it. So take a look at it. Again, it's under my members community tab, but you do got to be one of my members because it is kind of a beta and it's so not really ready for wide release yet, but take a look at that. Thank you. Thank you all so very much for joining us. This has been a long time coming. I've been waiting all month for this. Last month was a tremendous success. And I know that come January, when we get back together, we reconvene with this Keto Crusade. We're going to have an even bigger, better show. I'm making promises. Hopefully I can write checks for. But I know with these two guys in my corner, we're going to do wonderful things. So thank you all again so very much. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate you, Chris and Victor. You have been some of the friends that I didn't even know I needed, and that means the world to me.
Yeah,
Thank you, brother.
That you guys are amazing. Yes, believe. You guys are amazing, and I agree, Dustin. You guys are the friends that, as you said, I didn't know I need. But now that we got the three of us going, we're like the three musketeers here, and we're just going to go around tearing stuff up in the keto and carnivore world for the next foreseeable future till they come and lock us all up, I think.
All righty. Well, again, thank you all so very much for being here. I'm going to hit the button. We're going to see the outro. Thank you all so much for being here. Happy birthday to anybody that's having a birthday. I know Sean's birthday's tomorrow. Thank you all for being in the chat. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. I know I say it a lot, but hopefully the more I say it, the more you'll believe it because it's ridiculously true. But again, thanks you all so very much. And with that, goodbye, everybody.